Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Nintendo/gaming video for this week, for the week of April 11th to the 17th, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion. And if you're watching, and assuming you watch this on YouTube, if you're interested in any of the stories I talked about, I'll have a link down in the description where I found information of these stories, assuming you're watching this on YouTube and all. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover for this week, including the NPD charts have been released, though. Nintendo showed off their latest in the indie world, though. Sony making some decisions that, well, isn't really sitting exactly well with everyone out there. And a new rumor that has recently popped up in regards of with Nintendo and Microsoft supposedly somewhat working together to a certain degree and all. But before we get started, though, we'll get started with just what I like to call the quick My 2 Cent. Stories that sort of caught my attention, though, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details into them at all. We'll start our first one with the report that apparently a game known by the name of Super Seducer 1 and 2 has been refused by Nintendo due to the explicit content or anything like that. For those who may not be aware of, the only time I've only heard about this game was when the developer had a feud with YouTuber Jim Sterling and all. Well, supposedly the game supposedly got bombarded, got negative reviews and all that, to the 3rd chapter being banned on Steam and all that stuff. There's no given reason why Nintendo denied the game. There could be many possibilities. One could be that the content in the game pushed it all the way up to possibly the AO category, the adult only category, which is the equivalent of if a movie got a rating of NC-17, which is under 17, you're not permitted to see this, regardless even if you have a parent or a legal guardian. So there could be multiple reasons, but apparently it seems Super Seducer 1 and 2 will not be coming to the Nintendo Switch. We also learned that basically Ball and Wonderworld, the demo of the game, Square Enix is pulling the demo from like the Nintendo eShops to, Xbox Live or the Microsoft Store and the PlayStation Store, to be exact. No reason was given, but many speculate that one of the many reasons is that the game was a commercial failure and all, and the demo may have not helped the situation, as it may have made the situation worse for that game rather than make it better, though. It's really a shame, though, because there were some neat ideas based on my time with the demo that could have worked, but obviously it's clear that more time should have been they should have put more effort into this game and all that stuff. And hearing it flop, though, is unfortunately sad to hear about that, but not really that shocking in any way. We also learned that Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn will be coming to Fortnite and all. Again, I'm not a big Fortnite fan out there, but I'm sure there are those out there, and I guess for Switch owners who have Fortnite, I guess it's the closest thing of Sony putting their games on the Switch and all that stuff. Though I heard one developer, Panic Button, I think this was a couple years ago, thought it would be challenging to bring Horizon Zero Dawn to the Nintendo Switch, and that while that certainly would be interesting, obviously I have seriously doubt Sony will let that happen anyway. But if you're looking to try out Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, she's going to be in Fortnite, though, and I guess you could argue for those who own a Nintendo Switch or even, the Xbox or anything like that, this is the closest thing of seeing a Sony game character like Horizon Zero Dawn, like Aloy, on your respective platforms and all. We also learned that apparently CD Projekt Red, despite the bad press Cyberpunk 2077 are basically saying that abandoning the game is not an option and all that stuff. And I can understand why it may not. They probably won't ban it, though, but they have a lot of work to do to sort of earn the trust back after a lot of people were extremely disappointed with the way Cyberpunk 2077 turned out. Yet, despite some of the bad press, despite the backlash CD Projekt Red got, apparently it seems as though the game, apparently it was very successful for CD Projekt Red and all that stuff. So one could argue they kind of dodged a bullet and all, but I do wonder how this will impact, their next game. Will people be open to pre-ordering their next game, whether it's The Witcher 4 or something like that? Or do you think people will take a step back after seeing what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. We also learned that the original Shantae is the game that was released for the Game Boy Color back during the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance era. It's going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch this month, which is kind of interesting though. It's sort of a hidden gem in a way, and sort of a niche title though, especially for those who want to see where the Shantae series got its start though. I am a little curious to see if this is the start of we could be seeing maybe Game Boy or Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games maybe make their way over to the Nintendo Switch, which personally I would be open to that though. I would love to see Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. And while this might be an unpopular opinion to some folks out there, I wouldn't mind it being part of Switch's online service. Add the option to play Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games though. That would be really neat, at least from my perspective. I think it would be really neat. We also learned that basically, despite a report that came out this week in regards of back Square Enix being up for sale and all that stuff, Square Enix has recently came out and has shot down rumors of them being acquired or being bought out or anything like that though. Now, it is possible the story may not be true at all, but at the same time, it could be true, and just Square Enix is just trying to deny it and all that stuff. It will be really interesting if it does happen though, especially after what we saw last year with Microsoft buying Bethesda. It's certainly going to be interesting to see if other companies like say Sony or Nintendo, or I know this may be a stretch to say this, even Google or Amazon, since they have their streaming platform at this time, if they decide to buy bigger studios though. So time will tell if Square Enix does get bought up or anything like that, but as of where things stand, at least according to what Square Enix is saying though, they are not for sale at this moment though. And also we've learned that Resident Evil, Capcom had their Resident Evil showcase. Sadly, I didn't get to watch it and all that stuff. A couple things here and there that I have to deal with, but some information did come out, such as a crossover between the Resident Evil series and the game Death by Daylight, if I'm saying the name correctly though. We also know that the next Resident Evil or animated movie is set for July, courtesy of Netflix and all. We also learned that there will be a Resident Evil 4 VR for the Oculus Rift and all that stuff. It looks interesting, but again, I don't have an Oculus Rift, so it doesn't really click with me. But obviously, the big one was, of course, Resident Evil 8. We got to see more of all of Resident Evil 8. It's definitely one of the games I'm looking forward to picking up. Like I said before, I'm definitely getting a little bit of that Resident Evil 4 and Bloodborne vibe to it, and that's definitely not a bad thing. And last but not least, we do have a report, at least from the site Pure Xbox, that's reporting graphical options that will be available for those who are playing the game on Xbox Series X or S. But the weirdest one I read from that article is that apparently the frame rate for the Xbox Series S is going to be at 45 FPS, which to me, again, I'm not a game developer or anything like that, but it seems a bit strange to do that, and I was hoping for at least to some degree, maybe some way to get it up to 60 frames per second, maybe lower the resolution and all that. I would have liked to see something like that if that option was ever available. I would have loved to see something like a 1080p 30 frames per second or a 720p at 60 frames per second and all that stuff. But as of right now, this is the graphical options that will be available regardless if you play it on the Xbox Series S or the Xbox Series X though. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Microsoft and Nintendo. Now, in the past, though, we've heard stories about how Microsoft supposedly wanted to buy Nintendo, and they were kind of laughed off about it, though. Of course, this was back when Nintendo was in sort of a better position than they were during, like, the Wii U era and all that stuff. But, I mean, but other than that, though, for the most part, all three of the companies have sort of competed with each other and have stuck with their consoles and all that stuff. But lately, we've seen some stranger things this generation. We've seen cases where Companies like Sony are willing to allow some of their IPs go to PC. We've seen Microsoft really pushing the whole subscription service with Xbox Game Pass, along with, xCloud and all this stuff. And even Nintendo, to some degree, has put some of their IPs, or the beloved IPs, onto cell phones and all. Some with good success, some with not so great success. In other words, mixed results, to be exact, though. But we've also seen one that I thought was interesting was around, I think this was in either 2019 or 2020, when we started to see Microsoft, to a certain degree, bring some of their games over to basically the Nintendo Switch. We saw this with the surprise announcement of Cuphead, to Ori and the Will of the Wisp and Ori and the Blind Forest making their way to the Nintendo Switch. And this opened the door to the possibility of, could Microsoft bring some of their games over to the Nintendo Switch, to be exact? Could we see something like Game Pass make their way over? And that rumor started to speculate to even one where it pointed out, claiming that Halo could make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. And since then, that rumor has kind of died down for a bit, though. But now, apparently, we have a new one that seems to have come out. Now, before I begin talking about this rumor, I do want to stress and point out that, like anything, this is a rumor, so a grain of salt should be taken on this. That being said, I will say that we have, as I mentioned before, we've seen games like Cuphead, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Will of the Wisp make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities, though. So basically, this rumor has started because of supposedly what Phil Spencer has on his shelf. And basically, you see stuff when he's where you have a Nintendo Switch in the background, to the statue with the statue for the game Death Stranding, which we've heard rumors that Microsoft and Kojima Production could be working on something. Well, now this rumor seems to be now point to that Microsoft and Nintendo could possibly be working on something. In an article posted on Game Rant, it reads, quote, Rumor has it that when Microsoft first decided to enter into the console market, the company executives approached Nintendo with an offer to buy the Japanese company. They were apparently laughed out of the room. Now, some 2 decades later, it seems as though the two companies may once again be in discussion about some kind of partnership between the two tech giants, and if recent rumors are to believe, it could come to fruition later on this year. A somewhat reliable leaker has taken to Twitter to reveal that an announcement about a deal between Microsoft and Nintendo could be coming in the fall, although they provide very little information as to what potential partnerships may actually entail. Naturally, this has led to immediate speculation, with many people replying to Twitter giving their thoughts on what, if anything, might be in store. There are many different ideas, although two seem to be copying up a lot more than others, though. The most popular suggestion is that Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass may be coming to Switch, and there's plenty to support such a hypothesis. It has long been rumored that a Switch Pro will be announced in the autumn, and a more powerful console will likely remove some of the hardware limitation that has so far prevented many of the titles on Game Pass from being ported to the Switch. This would seemingly suit both parties, enable Nintendo to launch its rumored new console with major lineups of titles, and allowing Microsoft to bring its server to a console that sold almost twice as many units as the Xbox One. Others, however, are hoping that a Halo Master Chief will instead be coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Granted, this would be nowhere nearly as significant as Xbox Game Pass on the Switch, although the character is one of the most requested DLC fighters for Smash and one of the most notable absent from the game's roster. Of course, it could be something completely different, as one or two are speculating nothing at all. With the leaker having accurately predicted the Embracer Group acquisition of Gearbox and Final Fantasy VII Remake appearing on PlayStation Plus, though, they most see them as a fairly credible source, though. And I believe that someone from GameBeat, Jeff Grubb, has commented on this as well, if I'm not mistaken, though. Now, putting aside this being a rumor, though, let's say, for argument's sake, this rumor is true. Let's just, purely for speculation, this rumor turns out to be true. What could emerge between the relationship between Nintendo and Microsoft could come out of this? Well, there could be several possibilities. One possibility could be something as like Microsoft might help Nintendo in terms of, maybe revamping part of the Nintendo eShop. I've heard stories about how they have helped with the eShop before in the past, though. Maybe they're looking at them for something of like, in the caliber of like having like their own streaming service and all that stuff, maybe working with Microsoft on that. Supposedly, Sony is working with Microsoft at least on that part. Other possibilities could be that maybe this is opening the door of Nintendo's IP appearing on another console, or something like Xbox Game Pass. Although I kind of think that's, though I could be wrong on this one, I think that seems a bit unlikely to happen. Although, like I said, I've seen stranger things this generation, so it's certainly not out of the realm of the possibility. Others are speculating that the idea of Xbox Game Pass, though, I could see that happening, same with xCloud or something like that, but I can also see that if something like xCloud or Game Pass were to come to Nintendo Switch, it's possible Nintendo might set up some rules basically saying how certain games may be allowed on the Switch version of Game Pass / xCloud. Like, say, for example, since the Switch already has Doom Eternal, and Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, that won't be available on the Switch version of Game Pass or xCloud. So I'm thinking it's possible there may be some rules sort of set up or something like that. Again, it's pure speculation at this time, so it's too early to tell if that is going to happen or not, but there is that possibility that Game Pass could make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. Other possibilities could be the fact that perhaps maybe they'll start bringing, maybe Master Chief or Doom Guy could make their way over to Smash Bros., or even Ori as well. I mean, that is a possibility, although we've heard Mr. Sakurai make the claim that Smash Bros. are quote, for good boys and girls, yet despite the fact that you have Solid Snake and Bayonetta that are from M-rated games, I like to point that out to be exact. So, I mean, again, it's a possibility on that one. And of course, the last one is that it's possible Microsoft technically could bring some of their games over to the Nintendo Switch. Now, with the way I see it, it's if that were to ever happen, it would be something like this. If Halo were to come to the Nintendo Switch, putting aside the possibility of putting aside the Game Pass or xCloud Switch being on the Switch scenario, I can't see something like, say, a Halo Infinite making its way over to the Nintendo Switch. I could not see that happen, but I could see something like Halo Master Chief Collection in some ways, in some forms, making its way over to the Nintendo Switch. Such like as I can't see how Gears 4 or 5 can make their way over to I can't see those games making their way over to the Switch, but I could see something like Gears 1, 2, and 3 make its way over to the Switch. Same with Fable. I doubt the new Fable game will ever make its way over to the Nintendo Switch, but it is possible the Fable Anniversaries 1, 2, and 3 that were released on the Xbox 360 could technically make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. There's also the possibility that Rare's Replay could also make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. I could see that being the strongest possibility. He'd bring those games over, including maybe Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie and all. And, of course, there's also, let's see, what was the other one? Shoot, I forgot. All right. So that's that possibility right there. So, in other words, there are many possibilities that could happen out of this, though. But like anything, it's probably best to keep your expectations in check on this one. So, overall, though, it is a rumor, though, so it's important to take this rumor with a grain of salt. And like I said, though, I do think it's important to keep expectations in check, though, and a lot of things can happen between now and supposedly in the fall when this so-called announcement, at least according to what this leaker is saying, if it does happen at all. That said, as I said before, though, we've seen some crazy things this generation. We've seen Microsoft bring Cuphead, Ori and the World of the Wasp, and Ori and the Blind Forest to the Nintendo Switch. So It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, though. But like anything, it is a rumor, so it should be treated as a rumor as of this time, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with the Sony and basically some of the decisions they have made. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation regarding Sony and some of their decisions that they have made so far that, at least depending on who you're asking, has sort of kind of rubbed some people the wrong way, though. Now, there's no doubt about it that that last generation, Sony was definitely dominant, and that was with the PS4 and all that stuff. Some of that came because of the fact that both Microsoft and Nintendo at that time kind of shot themselves in the foot, making decisions that ultimately hurt their systems, though. With the Nintendo was with the Wii U, with Microsoft it was with the Xbox One. But one of the things that at the time Sony was also known for, and this was during the PS1, PS2, PS3, and even some ways during the PS4 era, is that it earned the reputation at the time as being the system for older audience. Some of it was the type of games they had, though, and some of them were basically from AAA titles to even smaller titles, and even certain, anime / fan service titles and all that stuff. Well, recently, since leadership has changed with Jim Ryan now taking over, though, there has been a shift, though, and not everybody has been happy with some of the shift. Some of it we've seen so far has been Sony's decision of not, continuing to shut down the storefront for the PS3, Vita, and PSP and all that stuff, which has raised a question about game preservation and the whole issue of classics and all that stuff. We've also seen Sony basically make some decision in terms of censoring certain titles, which hasn't sat very well with a lot of developers, particularly, most notably with Japanese developers, compared to what we've seen with Nintendo, which has been more relaxed now than they were back in like the 80s and early 90s and all that, though. And so some of the decisions have not sat very well with a lot of folks. And recently, Sony has made a decision, particularly in focusing on blockbuster video games only, and so far the response to some of this has been, well, let's just say not everybody is happy about it. In an article from Niche Gamer, it reads that, quote, Bloomberg's, I said, employees working under Sony Interactive Entertainment has criticized their focus on making blockbusters for a PlayStation console. Bloomberg's reported that SIE Visual Art Service Group, VASG, is, in Bloomberg's words, the unsung heroes of many hit PlayStation video games. They cite eight people familiar with the operation, who claim they aid in finishing development of games at SIE Substance with animation, arts, and other content and development. Around 2018, several influence figures within VASG wanted more creative control to expand on SIE's most successful franchise, and to lead the game development rather than just support it. One of the directors since 2007 recruited an estimated 30 developers initially, and from other studios under SIE, aiming to form a new development within Sony. This developers knew that pitch a new game was risky and that remakes were a safe bet and cheaper to produce. As such, they initially proposed remaking the first Uncharted game. However, that idea was rejected by the team for fear of it being too expensive, leading them to remake of The Last of Us for PlayStation 5. The aim was to produce something that looked similar to the then in development The Last of Us Part 2, with both games being packed together on the PS5. The plan was this safer and less expensive remake would build trust to remake the first Uncharted game and then other titles. The jump from assisting development to an original development team was tricky. David Lang, founder of support team and outright developer Aulx Studio, noted that those hoping to be original developers would face an uphill battle. And here's what he said, quote, original development teams are competing against hundreds of other teams from over the world with vast levels of experience and success. The people funding the works are often risk averse, and if they have to pick between a team that's done it before and someone trying to do it on their own for the first time, I can see why some people pick the prior developer over the latter. While SIE approves this person's project on a probability basis, they kept the team a secret, never fully acknowledging their existence. As such, they never had the funding or support needed. While selection of games development was finished in spring 2019, the showcase did not impress SIE. This came at a time when SIE was shuffling management, and Herman Hutzler, Hulst, former head of Guerrilla Games, who now heads of PlayStation Worldwide Studio, thought that this developer, MUMBAUER's team, The Last of Us remake was too expensive, and inquired why the planned budget was higher than the remake SIE had made prior. It was explained that it was due to the new graphic engines on PS5, and that more staff were needed to rework the graphics and gameplay mechanics. Hutzler was not convinced. Instead, the team and VASG were asked to help develop The Last of Us Part 2, which has just been delayed from 2019 to 2020. This slowed down the progress on the remake, as 200 staff were now busy helping Naughty Dog. SIE later stated that after The Last of Us Part 2 was completed, Naughty Dog would ask MUMBAUER on The Last of Us remake. Rather than a sign of hope, his team saw it as a loss as a loss of their autonomy, as dozens of Naughty Dog staff joined the project, some who worked on the original game. As such, they had more weight in discussion of the project's direction. The game was later moved under Naughty Dog's budget, with SIE giving them more leeway than with VASG. It was soon obvious the Shadow Crows had returned. Naughty Dog's been in charge, while VASG was assisting the project. After this, the group leader officially disbanded, with this person leaving SIE entirely. Both this person and SIE declined to comment when contacted Bloomberg. Another example, according to people familiar with the proposal, coming from Sony Band, reported intended to pitch a sequel to Day Gone in the same year as it launched. This was shot down, and despite being profitable, its developer took a long time, and critic review scores were muddling. On Metacritic, the game scored is 71 out of 100 as of this writing. One team at Sony Band was instead tasked with aiding Naughty Dog in developing a multiplayer game, while another worked on a new Uncharted game under supervision. This caused some staff, including top leaders, to leave the company. Some developers even feared Band being absorbed into Naughty Dog, and the studio's leadership asked to be taken off the Uncharted project. This was permitted in March, and the team is now working on a new project that promises to be part of a new franchise. Bloomberg noted that despite owning around dozens of studios worldwide under PlayStation Studios, in recent years it seemed to have only focused on their most successful development and a conservative approach to the PS5. They claim SIE are pouring tens of millions of dollars into studios such as Santa Monica and Naughty Dog, hoping for an exponential payoff. While this came true with God of War 2018 and The Last of Us Part 2, this focus has come to the expense of less player choice and high turnover with more niche studios. This was seen with Sony's Japan studio winding down of original development, and the vast majority of development staff have been let go. The reason for this dramatic restructuring is reportedly due to Sony Japan studio not being profitable enough in recent years. The developers had desired to make games that appeal primarily to the Japanese market, hoping it would still have the global impact. SIE reported yet again wanted global hit anchored to what its other first-party studios have produced. SIE later provided an official statement confirming Sony Japan Studio will be reorganized into a new organization. On April 1st, they were recentered to Team ASOBI, the creative team behind Astro's Playroom, allowing the team to focus on a single vision and build on the popularity of Astro's Playroom. The reason for this loss of faith may be born of restrictions of what developers can do and growing lack of faith in the Japanese market. In late 2018, SIE's Japan Asian president stated that the recent spat of censorship of anime-style sexual content on PS4 games had been to meet global standards. This censorship was seen focused in Japan. SIE frequently cited global and community standards as reason for censorship practice. This has led to Japanese developers to release on other platforms or create different versions. The restriction on expression and suppress the release of titles for Japanese users were also cited by analysts for the ACE Research Institute, claiming that it is definitive PlayStation would fall in Japan. He also claimed SIE was not realizing the region's potential. The same analyst also claimed that Nintendo had let's just say the word OLIGOPOLY in Japan, while PlayStation sales had been practically eradicated. Most recently, CyberConnect2 president claimed SIE had policy against depicting disarmament or missing limbs for Japanese developers. This may be born mostly of criticism and concerns from people with Japan, however, rather than additional complaints from overseas. In addition, Bloomberg's report claims that PlayStation employees and developers were losing faith in Japan as a market. The anonymous employee claimed that the company has begun to focus more on the U.S. after the PS4 has been disappointed in Japan. According to several employees of PlayStation Japan, this resulted in the Japanese office being, in Bloomberg's work, sidelined when it came to planning the promotion of the PlayStation 5. Employees from Tokyo, from Bloomberg, have been waiting for instruction. SIE CEO Jim Ryan denies that report, insisting that the Japanese market is still important to them. It should be noted that Japanese fans were not happy with Sony's decision to switch the X and O commands to the Western standards, and the two major PS5 live streams premiered, at 5 a.m. though. Bloomberg has frequently reported on stories from anonymous PlayStation sources, including claims Sony were struggling to find parts for the PS5 and meeting structural production goals. SIE would later deny these claims outright. So in other words, the point is that the article released from Niche Gamer, in which they heard from Bloomberg, is that Sony is focusing more on just blockbuster titles only, not focusing on niche titles and all that stuff. And some people have been kind of mixed that response, including, the whole censorship issue that Sony has been doing. Or should I say, not everybody is happy about it, though. I have to say, though, I don't 100% agree with the decision for Sony to focus on blockbuster-only titles. I'm not saying you can't have, big blockbusters like the God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn or Uncharted or The Last of Us or anything like that. But you also have to have some of these smaller titles and all to basically sort of fill in the gap while you build up for these big blockbuster titles and all that stuff, and just focusing on that, I just don't like that approach or anything like that. Same with the whole censorship issue and all that stuff, though. Now, to me, my position has always been, as long as the game stays within the rating system, if that's how the developers want to make the game, then so be it, though. If this is the kind of game they want to make, that's fine. As long as it stays, within the rating system, it doesn't go into the AO, adults only category, at least that's, here the ratings in the US, then that's fine, though. And this is where I kind of have to disagree with Sony on this. I understand they can set whatever rules they want for their system. I don't disagree with that, but that doesn't mean I 100% agree with that approach. And I firmly believe if a developer wants to make a game heavily on fan service, then so be it. If that's the kind of game they want, pending that stays within the rating system. And I think it's a bit ridiculous, some of the policies that Sony is taking about this, compared to, say, what Nintendo's doing, which is their position has been, you know what? stays in the rating system, fine. That's the kind of game you want to make. That's fine by us, though. So I definitely applaud them taking that approach and all that stuff. I have my own share of criticism about some of the stuff Nintendo does, but I definitely applaud with them on that. Same with Microsoft to a certain degree, although they kind of pulled the plug on Galgun returns for the Xbox One, which I understand it's their system, but I don't 100% agree with their decision to do that and all. So I have to say, overall, I'm not a big fan of this strategy that Sony is taking in terms of focusing just on blockbusters. I do think you got to have some of these smaller titles, even niche titles as well, to sort of fill in that gap as we start building up to those big, like AAA titles and all that stuff, niche or AA titles and all. Nor do I agree with Sony's censorship decision, though. I mean, to me, it's as long as the game stays within the rating system, that's fine if that's the kind of game a developer wants to make and all. Whether consumers agree with that or not, it's going to be their call at the end of the day. Whether or not this will impact Sony in the long run or not, that remains to be seen, though, because as of right now, PS5 is still doing well for them, though. But I will say that I don't agree with some of the approaches Sony is making as of right now. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3, and excuse me, and this one has to do with the indie world that Nintendo showed off for this week. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo hosting their Indie World Direct, though. For those who are not familiar, this is basically when they show off several indie games that are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I will say, after watching this week's Indie Direct, though, or Indie World, I will say, well, I won't go as far as like it blew me out of the water or anything like excuse me, or anything like that, though. There were some good games that they announced, nevertheless, and I am definitely would be keeping an eye out. A couple of them I definitely am looking forward to trying out when those come to the Nintendo Switch, however. So, according to several of the games that they showed off, though, some of them they showed off is Road 96, which is a sort of a hitchhiker adventure game, exploration and puzzle solving, though. That one looks interesting, though. I have to see more information, but it looks more, story driven and all that, though. We've seen, there's also Oxenfree 2, Lost Signal was announced, though. I have to get more information, read more about that one. I never played the first one, to be exact, though. Ollie World, that one looks kind of neat. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Skate and Die or anything like that, so that one I definitely will take a look at, though. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, big one for me, though, because I grew up growing up during the 90s. I remember playing the Ninja Turtles arcade game, whether it was going to the local pizza place or the Chuck E. Cheese growing up, though, and I was a Ninja Turtles fan back in the 80s and 90s and all that stuff. The fact that this one was announced for the finally announced for the Nintendo Switch, even before they made the official announcement, I had a feeling this game was going to come to the Switch, though, and also to other platforms as well. So it's not really am surprised about it. Nice that they confirmed it, but I think a lot of us knew it was going to come to Switch at some point. What still remains about the Ninja Turtle one of Shredder's Revenge is whether or not will this have co-op. Will we have online co-op or local co-op, though? Will the story follow the events of Turtles in Time in any way? Will the game take an approach like what we saw with Streets of Rage 4 last year? Be a full-on, like a true sequel or true throwback to the early Streets of Rage game? Or will this game basically take the approach similar to what we saw with River City Ransom or Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which has some like RPG elements and all that stuff? So some questions still remain about it, but it's definitely up on my list of games to play out. We also saw one for the Longing, which to me, this one is basically sort of an odd game, to be exact. I mean, supposedly, if I'm reading this correctly, you have to wait 400 days for the king to awaken. You have to do all these puzzles and all that stuff. Now, I don't know if that is correct or not, but if it is, it's just weird. It's just weird, but there may be an audience for it. That's all fine and all. We've seen that games like Hindsight and Last Stop are going to be basically going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Basically, they're saying that the game is basically the Hindsight is a narrative-driven game about an older woman renaissancing about her family and all that stuff, and all that like the object is for her past serve as portal into long lost memories, revealing a decision that forever changed her life, though. The other one, Last Stop, is a single-player third-person adventure set in modern-day London where you play as 3 separate characters whose world collides in the midst of a supernatural crisis, though. We also have one called Aerial Knight Never Yield, though, and supposedly there is a demo out right now, though. It's basically saying run, jump, slide, and dash through the futuristic Tokyo-style Detroit to a head-bopping soundtrack as the protagonist Wally to save what's left of the future. Fez, that one kind of surprised me, though, that the Fez will be coming to the Nintendo Switch, considering I remember hearing the issue that the developer had. I mean, supposedly there were controversy surrounding some of his comments he made. Some people felt like some people were harassing him too much, while others feel like he gave off some comments that, well, part of my language sort of made it come off like he was acting like a douche or something like that. But either way, Fez is on the Nintendo Switch. I might give that one a go. We have Aztec Fighting God. Basically, it's from Mexican studio LIENZO. Gain powerful arm upgrades, traffic different arenas with an adventure, and character unlock the secret unlock ancient secrets. That one looks interesting. There is no game. Wrong Dimension is a point-and-click comedy adventure filled with riddles and puzzles, though. Christ Tale, though, it says develop, drawing inspiration from classic and modern JRPG. Christ Tales incorporate time travel in the storyline and combat with various surprise effect, like making enemies younger and thus easier to defeat. While exploring this handcraft dark fantasy fairy tale world, you'll recruit and diverse characters of allies and discover new realms, though. It's supposed to be coming out on the July 20th, though. And supposedly there is a demo. I don't know when. I think it might or might not be out. And one that surprised me was one from Konami, and which is called, if I'm saying this name correctly, though, GETSU FUMADEN Undying Moon, showcasing a styled Japanese aesthetics. It delivers a dynamic hack and slash roguelike experience filled with parallel dungeons, fierce boss battles, and intense skill-based combat, though. Unfortunately, this one won't be out until next year, which is kind of a bit of a disappointment to some degree, but still kind of surprising it is coming from Konami and all that stuff, given the reputation Konami has been getting over the years and all. We have Beasts of Marvella Island, though. You take a role of a young wildlife photographist who travels to Marvella Island, apologize for not saying the name correctly, magic ecosystem to discover extraordinary creatures, learn their behaviors, and most importantly, photograph them majestically, though. This will be out in June. We have Skull, the Hero Slayer. Take on an entire army to rescue your king in this 2D fast action roguelike. And the best part, to progress in the game, you need to swap abilities, which is done by swapping heads, with 90 playable characters, rarities, each with their own special abilities. You might think you're out of your skull in real life. The game launches this summer. We have Art of Rally, though. Drive iconic cars inspired by the golden era of rally racing on challenging stages through stylish environments set around the world. This one launches in the summer. Keyway is a puzzle, though, and that will be out in August. We have Ender Lilies. If I'm saying the name correctly, though, it's a dark fantasy 2D action RPG. This will be out on July 22nd. Weaving Tides, which is a single-player adventure, which will be out in May. Labyrinth City, though, is basically a game that takes you across incredible details maze to retrieve a powerful artifact that will come out this spring. And last but not least, they showed off the first ever footage of the House of the Dead remake, which will supposedly come out later this year. I would say, based on what they showed on the House of the Dead remake, I'm impressed with what they showed so far, but I still have some questions to ask, though. Is it a true faithful remake? Are there certain, or they have changed things up a bit, though? And being this is coming to the Nintendo Switch, will we be able to use the Joy-Con to sort of recreate that light gunner adventure, or is this like a controller only, though? So I'm a little curious about that, though. As far as which of the games that stuck out to me the most on this Indie Direct, I would say the ones that stuck out to me were obviously the House of the Dead remake. Love those old school arcade games. I would say Skull the Hero Slayer somewhat stood out for me, though. The one from Konami, which is, I'm surprised this one's from Konami indeed, though. So the Undying Moon one, that one's on my list. Christ Tales is definitely one I am willing to keep an eye out for. That one has certainly sparked my interest, though. Let's see, what else? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, Oli Oli World, though. So those are the games that I think stood out for me, though. As far as this presentation goes, I mean, it was good, though. There were definitely some games that clicked with me the most, though, but I will admit, none of them stood out in the way, like, say, one of the indie worlds that we had when they showed off, Cuphead. That wowed people and all that stuff. So, but overall, this was a good Indie World Direct, though. There were some announcements I liked, though. Obviously, it's not going to be for everyone, but there were still, nevertheless, some pretty good announcements, at least from my view, though. That is. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this is the NPDs that have just been released. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the NPDs. They just came out this week, and it turns out to be we got some interesting sales numbers for some of the softwares and some of the hardwares out there. And most surprisingly, though, or not hugely surprising, though, is that apparently it seems that Monster Hunter Rise is definitely off to a great start. Not to mention the Switch and the PS5 continue to do very well. Over at VentureBeat, though, they were listed their their top 20 best selling games of the month in the US for March. And according to the rankings, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War at number 1. We've had Monster Hunter Rise at number 2. Outrunner at number 3, Super Mario 3D World at number 4, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales at number 5, Mario Kart 8 at number 6, I assume it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Assassin's Creed Valhalla at number 7, Animal Crossing New Horizon at number 8, Super Mario 3D All-Stars at number 9. I bet you some of that has to do with the unlimited run that Nintendo did. Some people may or may not like that approach, though. Minecraft at number 10, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 at number 11, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 12, Pokemon Sword and Shield at number 13, Mortal Kombat 11 at number 14, Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time at number 15, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at number 16, Madden NFL 21 at number 17, NBA 2K21 at number 18, Super Mario Party at number 19, though, and FIFA 21 at number 20, though. So I will say it's very interesting to see Outrider do kind of well, despite the launch of that game, though. Supposedly it got off to sort of a bad start, but it managed to get the number 3 spot, while Monster Hunter Rise got the number 2 spot, which is really good for that kind of game, given the positive response to Monster Hunter Rise has gotten so far. It's going to be interesting to see where both Monster Hunter Rise and Outrider are going to be placed, maybe in next month's NPDs, though. So we'll have to take a look to see how that is, though. Mario Kart 8 continues to do very well for Nintendo. It's kind of like the Skyrim for Nintendo. That game doesn't seem to die. Same with Breath of the Wild in a way, though. Crash Bandicoot 4 is certainly doing well for Activision. The article points out that the March launch of the Switch version of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, helped the title rise to number 15 on March's best-selling charts after placing 65th in February, though. So pretty amazing on that, to see that one. Pretty amazing that the Switch version helped push Crash Bandicoot 4's About Time on for the top, put it into the top 20 in for March's NPD charts. Over at basically the best-selling games of 2021 so far, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War at number 1, Super Mario 3D World at number 2, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales at number 3, Monster Hunter Rise at number 4, Assassin's Creed Valhalla at number 5, Mario Kart 8 at number 6, Minecraft at number 7, Madden NFL 21 at number 8, Animal Crossing New Horizon at number 9, and Outriders at number 10. Over at the best-selling games for the last 12 months, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War at number 1, Madden NFL 21 at number 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 at number 3, Assassin's Creed Valhalla at number 4, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales at number 5, Animal Crossing New Horizon at number 6, The Last of Us Part 2 at number 7, Ghost of Tsushima at number 8, Super Mario 3D All-Stars at number 9, and Mario Kart 8 Mario Kart 8 at number 10. Interesting to see Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Again, the limited run might have been the reason, though. Over at basically the top best-selling Nintendo games in the US, Nintendo Switch games for March 2021. Surprisingly, right now we have the first third-party title that has gotten the number 1 spot, and that is, surprise, surprise, though, Monster Hunter Rise. That is the number 1 best-selling Nintendo game in the US for March 2021, followed by Super Mario 3D World at number 2, Mario Kart 8 at number 3, Animal Crossing New Horizon at number 4, Super Mario 3D All-Stars at number 5, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 6, Pokemon Sword and Shield at number 7, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at number 8, Super Mario Party at number 9, and Luigi's Mansion 3 at number 10. Over on the PlayStation side, though, basically Marvel's Spider-Man's Miles Morales is at number 2, with Ghost of Tsushima at number 8. Otherwise, the number one best-selling PlayStation game in the US for March 2021 is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War at number 1. As I mentioned, Spider-Man's Miles Morales is number 2. Outriders is at number 3. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is at number 4. Madden NFL 21 is at number 5. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 is at number 6. Minecraft is at number 7. As I mentioned, Ghost of Tsushima is at number 8. NBA 2K21 is at number 9. And Mortal Kombat 11 is at number 10. On the Xbox side of things, though, basically, unfortunately, it doesn't sound... Oh, yeah. Apparently, it seems that only Forza Horizon 4 is the only best-selling is on this list at number 7 as part of the top 10 best-selling Xbox platform games in the US for March 2021. Otherwise, it's Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War at number 1, Assassin's Creed Valhalla at number 2, Outriders at number 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 at number 4, Mortal Kombat 11 at number 5, Madden NFL 21 at number 6. As I mentioned, Forza Horizon 4 at number 7, It Takes Two at number 8, Marvel's Avengers at number 9, and Watch Dogs Legions is at number 10. Over on the hardware side, though, it seems as though it's basically sort of duking it out between the Switch and the PS5, although apparently Xbox is also helping with the sales numbers as well. According to the article, it reads, March video games hardware dollar sales were 40% higher than a year ago at a March record 680 million, NPD analysis. NPD now said the previous high of 552 million was set in March 2008. Year to date, hardware spending totals 1.4 billion, an increase of 81% compared to a year ago. The Switch continues to sell out despite higher availability compared led the month. Nintendo Switch was the best-selling hardware platform in both units and dollars during the month of March. In the first quarter, Nintendo Switch was the unit sale leader, while PS5 ranked first in hardware dollar sales. But the limited availability of new generation console isn't unusual, despite its short supply. PS5 is actually on record pace for sales in the US. PS5 is the fast-selling console in the US history in both units and dollar sales, though lifetime sales were sales with 5 months in the market. For now, Microsoft and Sony continues to sell nearly every console they make, and these sales will certainly be higher if they can produce more systems. So the takeaway from the NPD charts, if we were to, take away from them though, is the fact that Monster Hunter Rise is definitely off to a really good start. That's obviously got to be good for not only Capcom, but also good for Nintendo and Switch owners though. Despite the bumpy start Outriders is having right now, it seemed to do very well on the NPD sales charts, though it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what it does let's say next month and so forth. And obviously the Switches continue to do very well despite being released back in 2017, and even though the Xbox Series S and X and PS5 have come out though, it continues to do very well though, although PS5 and Xbox Series S and X are still doing very well despite the short supplies out there for people who are trying to find a system, especially with the whole component shortage and the scalper kind of situation that we're dealing with though. And of course, Mario Kart 8 continues to do very well, which makes you kind of wonder, will we ever get a Mario Kart 9 and all that? So overall, it seems as though Sony is probably happy with the way the PS5 is selling, and Nintendo has to be happy with the way the Switch is doing right now. And I'm sure they're also happy with the fact that Monster Hunter Rise is off to a really good start, not only for Capcom, but also for Nintendo as well. And it's going to be really interesting to see if the momentum for Monster Hunter Rise could continue into when we get the next NPD, which will probably be April's NPD report. So I'm curious to see how long Monster Hunter Rise can sustain its momentum. That's going to be very interesting to see indeed. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this rumor about Nintendo and Microsoft probably making some sort of announcement in the fall or anything like that? Do you think this rumor is true? Do you think this could happen? Or do you think this rumor is not true at all? And if this partnership is real, do you expect something exciting? Or are you going to keep your expectations in check? What are your thoughts about Sony's decision in terms of focusing on blockbusters and their whole supposedly report of them banning Japan or anything like that? Do you think it's the right move for them to focus on basically AAA experience for the PS5, or do you think they should also look at niche titles or double A's or smaller titles to sort of fill in that gap to build to those AAA titles? And do you think it's the right approach with this whole censoring issue that Sony has been doing lately for Japanese developers, or do you think it's wrong that they're doing this, or do you think the whole situation is blown way out of proportion? What are your thoughts about Nintendo's Indie World Direct? Did you watch the Indie World, and if so, did you like the kind of games that they showed off? Didn't like kind of the games that you showed off? Were there any that kind of interest you? And what are your thoughts about March 2021 NPD reports? Are you surprised that Monster Hunter Rise became #1? Are you not surprised at all? Are you surprised that Outrunner did very well? Are you surprised that Mario Kart 8 continues to sell very well indeed? And do you think this is preventing a Mario Kart 9 from ever happening though? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below if you're watching this on YouTube, and I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icons for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video if you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!